Let's talk about childhood obsessive-compulsive disorder. You've probably heard the term, but it's often misunderstood. We're going to break down what it really is, how it can trap a kid in this loop of anxiety, and, most importantly, we're going to explore the therapy that has proven to help them break free.
You know how a song can get stuck in your head, just playing over and over? It's a little annoying, right? Well, imagine that, but instead of a song, it's a really upsetting thought or a scary image, and you just can't turn it off. That feeling right there is the very first step in the entire OCD cycle.
And that brings us to the two main parts of obsessive-compulsive disorder. First, you've got the obsessions. These are those sticky, unwanted thoughts or urges that just pop into a child's mind again and again, and they cause a ton of stress. And then you have the compulsions. These are the things a child feels they absolutely have to do to try and make that awful feeling go away. And, this is way more common than most people think. OCD actually affects about 1 to 2% of all kids and teenagers. Just let that sink in. In an average school, that could be dozens of kids who are quietly going through this. It's a really powerful reminder that if your child is struggling, they are definitely not alone. So the big question is, why can't a kid just, stop? Why can't they just decide not to think the thought or not do the ritual? Well, it's because OCD isn't just a bad habit. It's this incredibly powerful, self-reinforcing trap. Let's take a look at exactly how that trap is built. Okay, this slide shows the whole cycle perfectly. It all starts with that obsession, right? An intrusive thought like, what if my hands are covered in germs? That thought causes this huge spike in distress. So to get rid of that awful feeling, the child does a compulsion, like washing their hands. And here's the absolute key. It works. For a moment, the anxiety goes down and they feel relief. But that relief teaches the brain a really tricky and very wrong lesson. Hey, that ritual I did, it kept me safe. And that just makes the whole cycle even stronger the next time around. So, you see, the goal of treatment isn't to just make the anxiety vanish. Actually, trying to escape the anxiety is what keeps the whole thing going. The real goal is to get right in there and intentionally break that connection between the stressful thought and the ritual. And the number one tool for doing that is a therapy called exposure and response prevention, or ERP for short. It really is the gold standard. So it has two parts. The exposure part means you gradually and safely face the thoughts or situations you're afraid of. Then comes response prevention, which is just as important. That's where you resist the urge to do your compulsion. You're basically facing the fear without using your usual escape hatch. It's all about building up your tolerance for that discomfort. This chart just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On the left, you have the OCD path. It gives you that quick hit of relief, but it just keeps you stuck walking in circles, and the OCD gets stronger over time. The ERP path on the right, well, it's harder at first, no doubt about it. You have to walk through the distress without doing the ritual. But what's on the other side of that feeling is this incredibly powerful long-term learning. You learn that the terrible thing you were afraid of doesn't actually happen, or even better, you learn that you are strong enough to handle the feeling all on your own. Now, that sounds incredibly hard, and honestly, it is, but therapists totally get that. This quote really captures the spirit of ERP. It's not about just throwing a kid into their absolute worst fear. Not at all. It's about working together as a team to break the fear down into these small, totally manageable, step-by-step challenges. And that personalized plan is what we often call a courage ladder or a fear hierarchy. It's basically a list that the child and therapist make together, ranking all the specific fears and triggers from the least scary all the way up to the most scary. This becomes the actual roadmap for the therapy. Here's a perfect example for a kid who's afraid the house might burn down. You'll notice they don't start at the top, right? They don't start by leaving the house unchecked for hours. No way. They start way down at the bottom, at a distress level of 2, by just writing down scary words. You build up confidence and skills on these lower rungs of the ladder before you even think about climbing up to the tougher challenges. But here's the thing. A child never climbs that ladder all by themselves. The family is an absolutely essential part of the treatment team. But, and this is a big but, there's a surprising twist. Often, without even realizing it, the most loving, well-meaning parents can actually be helping to keep that OCD cycle going. It's something called family accommodation. This is when a parent, answers the same question for the 10th time just to provide reassurance, or helps their child check all the locks, or starts avoiding places that might trigger their child's OCD. Now, this comes from a place of love, of course. It's a natural instinct to want to ease your child's pain. But it accidentally sends the wrong message. It reinforces the OCD's core belief that the fear is real and that the rituals are necessary. So the family's big job is to shift from accommodating the OCD to supporting the child. This means instead of giving reassurance like, I promise you everything will be okay, you offer encouragement like, I know this feels so hard and I'm so proud of you for being this brave. You basically stop being a partner in the ritual and become a cheerleader for their courage instead. And this brings us right back to the ultimate goal here. ERP is not about getting rid of anxiety for the rest of your life. It's about learning a much, much deeper lesson, that you can feel distress and you can handle it. You learn that the catastrophes OCD is screaming about are actually manageable, and that you are so much more capable of handling hard feelings than you ever thought. And that is the real win. The therapy does more than just reduce symptoms. It builds this deep, lasting resilience. Kids learn that the story OCD has been telling them, the one that says they're fragile and can't handle things, is a total lie. They get to discover a strength and a courage inside themselves they never even knew they had. So we're going to end on this question. For any parent watching, this is what you're fighting for. A life where your child is free to be spontaneous, to make messes, to live by their own values, not by the rigid, exhausting, and pointless rules of OCD. That freedom is absolutely possible, and ERP is the map that can get you there.